Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Ladies and gentlemen, to make today's event all the more special, we have a special guest between us today, Mr. Prahlad Kakkar. Mr. Prahlad Kakkar is a leading Indian ad film director, best known for his work on the famous Pepsi TV commercial with Amitabh Bachchan and Sachin Tendulkar. He is the founder and main director for Genesis Film Productions, one of India's leading production houses established in 1977. An avid scuba diver, in 1995, he set up Laka Dives, a scuba diving school, along with his wife, Mithali Kakkar, at Kadmat Island, in collaboration with the government of Lakshadweep. He also runs a coffee shop and Casa Amor, a wine bar and restaurant set up in Mumbai in 2001. He joined advertising in 1971 as an accounts executive at ASP Delhi, and after an year, he was transferred to the company's Bombay office. In 1972, he joined the renowned feature director Shyam Benegal as an assistant director for films such as Ankur, Manthan, and Bhumika. After training under Shyam Benegal, Mandeep Kakkar, and Ravi Opor, Prahlad Kakkar founded Genesis Film Productions in 1977. Today, Genesis Film Productions is considered to be one of the most highly regarded advertisement filmmaking agencies in India. He is the co-founder of Reef Watch Marine Conservation, set up in 1994, which aims at creating marine life awareness. He supports and plays an important role as the chief advisor and trustee of Natura Outdoor Education Trust. May I invite Mr. Prahlad Kakkar to come on stage and say a few words. We are privileged to have you between us, and a big round of applause for him.
Morning. I see that Dubai is just as good as India. We're all late. So no problem. They'll miss the boring part of the speech and they'll probably walk in at the time when I'm going to show you all the happening commercials for in the last 20 years that I've sort of put together, which are very special, actually. I was just thinking, when I was hearing the young lady about the great things that I've done in my life and how truth gets distorted by myth. And I remember the Times of India once asked Muhammad Khan, who was doing their campaign for them, to pick 3 of the most notorious rogues in Bombay to represent the Times of India in the advertising. And the bottom line was, he also reads the Times of India. So, of course, there was Pritesh Nandi, there was me, and there was one other gentleman who wasn't so much of a rogue, poor chap, but he was lumped with us. So, it was a resume of all the things that people didn't know about us. And how many times we were thrown out of our jobs, how many times we failed, how many times we were thrown out of our college hostels. I was thrown out for a charge called corrupting the morals of the Brahman boys, and so forth and so on. And then they wrote about my wife, who's sitting here. They said the long-suffering Mithali had to bear up with him and his 3 children, and so forth and so on. And he also reads the Times of India. Now they needed a photograph for it, so they put up a myth like this resume of mine, so-called. And the myth was that I'm standing in a tux with my hair flying, a cigar in my mouth, and 2 skimpily clad chicks standing in front of me, like that. So I looked at it and I said, yeah, this is not the truth. This is all the hype. So I thought very carefully, I said, what is the truth? And the truth is, unfortunately, how natural. So I said, let me take a nude photograph of myself with a cigar in my mouth, which is the truth, and a fish in my hand, because that's my passion. And since everybody was a little askance at the fact that I was going to be standing on Mud Island Beach in the Altogether, they decided to hang a hat where the nether regions were. And the hat was very much a part of my my identity at that time. It still is, but not as much as it was. So I took a photograph with the hat there with one hand and a fish in one hand and a cigar in my mouth and my hair flying, whatever. And I sent it to the Times of India and I said, see, this is the truth and this is the hype. Now, you have full permission to publish the nude as a part of the truth. And you'll get away with it because it's me after all. You know, nobody knows or nobody expects anything legal, moral, or respectable about anything that I do. So they went into a state of cardiac arrest and obviously picked the myth. So finally they published the myth, but I kept that photograph in my study on top of the other photographs saying that's the truth and that's the myth. So advertising, branding, marketing should be the truth, but it's also mixed with a healthy dose of the myth. So the myth is what other people want us to be. The truth is what we are. So somewhere in the middle, when you actually promote yourselves as a brand for whatever it's worth, first it starts with you as an individual, because you also, each one of you here is an entrepreneur, and therefore you are also your own brand. So the first thing about you is, what is the myth? What is the truth? How consistent are you with both? And the truth always prevails, because that's the most consistent thing. Because whenever you are lying about something that you are not, then you have to remember that lie. And one lie leads to many lies. And then you have to remember who you said what to. So that also becomes a lie. So by the time you're so overloaded that you usually screw up somewhere or another by mixing who you said what to and whom. So the easiest thing to do is stick with the truth, because the truth never changes. And you don't have to remember it. That's the most best part of it. So as individual brands and as people who have created brands, you must remember that when you hype yourselves and your brands to a degree where it becomes not credible, that is the time that you have to look back and say, let me take 2 steps back. Because eventually the consumer is not some idiot on the road which you can run over. The consumer is your wife. And you can't fool her all the time, because believe me, her antennae is sticking up. Every time you go on a business travel to Bangkok, she knows exactly what you've been up to. And every time you come back bearing gifts for her, she's very suspicious, because she says, there's some guilt in this guy that he's brought me so many expensive presents. So, jara poochtach karte hain. What has he been up to? When you come back and complain bitterly about how hard you had to work and what a boring life you have, then also she's very suspicious, because she said he's trying to cover up. So remember, if your consumer is your wife, and if you can't fool her, you can't fool the consumer. You can fool them once, but you can never fool them consistently. So it's very essential that in all branding exercises, whether it's yourselves as people, whether it's you as an industrialist, whether you as an entrepreneur, whether you, for the value that you add to whatever you do, for the product that you create, because it's a pursuit of a dream and of excellence. And every time you take a shortcut, you are actually selling yourself short. That the truth is the basics and the basis of all value. So what we're really concerned about today, in today's world, where everything is shifting and changing so fast, just remember one thing, especially in a place like India, where we have a very traditional society. In a place like Dubai, there is not too much history of tradition as such, except for the original Arab people who lived here and who have their own traditions, which they've maintained very carefully, and I'm so glad about that. Is the fact that when you have a traditional society and you follow a particular tradition, like we do in India, the change that comes in a society is extraneous. It is in the next generation. And by trying to stop change is like trying to stop the sea. So you have to adapt to change, because that is going to be the only constant in your lives. The constant in your life is going to be change and not status quo. Because when we cross 40, 50, we struggle to maintain status quo because we are comfortable with it. When you struggle to maintain status quo, you lose the sharpness and the edge of learning, because you don't want to learn anymore. You want to just hang on to what you have. And it's not possible. Because in India and the world, if you look at it carefully today, we have changed more in the last 10 years than we've changed in the last 100. 100 years of evolution and change have not kept speed with the last 10 years. The last 10 years have been absolutely like a roller coaster ride. And we realize that, at least we've now started realizing in management terms, that only the young are comfortable with that change. The older you are, the more uncomfortable you are with that change. Because everything that you depended on, everything that you could take for granted, everything that was already given to you has now shifted and changed completely. So you have to relearn and unlearn and relearn everything from the beginning. Now, how many of us are comfortable doing that? Because if you're not, then we shouldn't be in business. Because the business today, especially in countries like India and the Middle East, is for the young. The reason why it is so is because we have a population of at least 60 to 70% that is below the age of 35. And it is going to remain so for the next 40 to 50 years. We are among the youngest nations in the world. And we are going to remain so. Now, what is so special about a young nation? What is so special about a young nation is that young people are willing to take risks. Young people are willing to adapt. Young people are willing to learn. Young people are hungry. Young people are ambitious. Young people are aggressive. And you learned the power of young people in the last elections in India because they swept the old government out and brought in somebody after 40 years with a complete majority where they have turned around and said, okay, put your money where your mouth is and deliver. Because the future is ours. And if the country doesn't have a future, then we have no future. So the shift in the demographics of the elections, if you just look at the Indian elections, the average turnout in the last 40 years was 45%. And only the street people and the really poor people came out in mass. The middle class never voted. The young people never voted. This time, the turnout was 75%. Where did that 30% come from? Who are this 30%? Nobody except BJP and the Modi's team actually tried to figure out the demographics of this additional 30% or 35%. And they realized they were all the young people, first-time voters. First-time voters. 18 plus. And they made such a huge difference to the demographics of the voting because they were high-risk takers. They said, the hell with it, we don't want this. Let's sweep it clean. Let's start from scratch. Because the question that they were asking themselves was, boss, agar ye desh डूब गया तो हमारा क्या होगा कालिया? All the people who are 40 plus, उनने तो समेट के रख लिया है. They have saved enough money to put away so that they can live their lives out. But what's going to happen to us? Because we have no future if this country is going to go down the tube. So the difference in the voting balance was the young people who came out to the fore. So what is it that you learn from that election lesson? And believe me, it's not a flash in the pan. It's not an accident. It's going to constantly repeat itself, because the young people are going to ask questions of the older generation which they have no answers for. And that does not necessarily mean only politicians. It also means business. And if they are your target audience, and if they are your maximum consumers, then you have to think like they do. And you can no longer think in a staid and conservative manner. You have to be out of the box. You have to think like a young person does. To think like a young person, you have to be young. Not necessarily in age, but at least in mind. So what is the most unique factor about young people? What is the most unique thing about young people? Is risk. Now, strangely enough, all of you have learnt either the hard way or not the hard way, that the business of business is risk. The business of business is not being mediocre and repetitive and safe, because there is no such land as safe. In business, there is no sanctuary called safe. You're either ahead of the curve or you're dead. And the fact is that today, whereas 10 years ago, it would take a top level company 10 years to die. Today, top level companies die in 2 years. And I'm talking about multinational companies. I'm not just talking about halwai ki dukans. I'm talking about Nokia. I'm talking about Ericsson. I'm talking about IBM. All the names that used to shake the floor when people used to walk in and say, "Main IBM ke liye kaam karta hu. I work for IBM. I work for Nokia." World beaters. Look at their state today. IBM is on the verge of bankruptcy. Nokia has already collapsed. Ericsson has disappeared. They were number one companies in the world. Not very far back. So, what is the lessons that you actually learn from the fact of being young? Is that you have to be ahead of the curve. To have to be ahead of the curve, you have to be original. You have to be risk-taking. You have to follow your gut. It's very, very exciting today in the world, because all young entrepreneurs today can actually reach their full potential, which you never could before. Because the rules of the game have changed completely. And the most important aspect in the last 10 years, especially in SMEs, small scale and medium scale industries, up to 100 crores turnover, is that the fact is that they are on the verge of scaling. But what is holding them back? Two things that are holding them back. One is, nobody wants to pay taxes. So you have two sets of books. One for the taxman, where you declare very few taxes, very few profits, and the other which is the black money that you stash away. Nobody realizes today, or at least from the older generation, that your black money is worth nothing. You can't even buy a bicycle with it. Because the moment you buy something of any value or invest it in something, you immediately have a scrutiny. Where did you get this money from? The second thing is, to scale you need money. And you're never going to spend your own money. You're going to borrow it from a bank or an institution. They will come and examine your books, and they will see what the valuation of your company is. And if you're showing on a 50 crore turnover, a 2 crore profit, how can you take a 50 crore loan on it? When you want a 50 crore loan to scale from 100 crores to 500 crores, who's going to give you the money? At bank rates. If your evaluation of your company is only 2 crores profit, and then you tell them, boss, actually मेरा profit 15-20 crore है, पर मैं दिखा नहीं रहा हूं. I'm not showing it. He'll say, I'm sorry. What you get is what you show. So today there are huge bottlenecks in terms of scaling, purely because of one reason is that the valuation of your companies has been artificially depressed. And therefore bankers and institutions are not willing to go that extra yard and say, yes, it's a healthy industry, it's doing damn well, but on their books it's not showing so. So they cannot give you that kind of money, which you need to scale. The second thing is that you all don't build brands because you think that you can live forever on a B2B business. The B2B business days are over because you are restricted. Unless you become a brand which can become a global brand, what is the point? Take for instance, you make gearboxes for Mercedes in India. Okay? You've been through due diligence. Mercedes has come to your factory, checked every single nail in it to see whether you can produce the quality that they are promising worldwide. Right? So you're very happy that you're producing gearboxes for Mercedes because whatever you produce has been lifted. So you're happy, you go home with a margin, with a sliver margin. What happens if Mercedes tomorrow collapses? Where do you go? Can you go to Rolls-Royce? Can you go to Jaguar? They don't know you. Now, if you build a brand saying, these are our gearboxes, this is its name, I am the owner, and we build the best gearboxes in the world because we drive the Mercedes. You can ride piggyback on the reputation of Mercedes to create a brand for yourself. So tomorrow, nobody goes in the market and buys a gearbox unless you're making a car. But the fact is that look at the number of people in the world who make cars. Look at where Mercedes is in that pedigree bracket. And if you can tie yourself to their tails, look where you are in the pedigree bracket. But sitting in Ludhiana and making gearboxes for a B2B company where your name is nowhere on that gearbox and the public doesn't know anything about you, how are you going to become a world beater? If you are already a world beater, you are a world beater because Mercedes has accepted your gearboxes as the standard of the world. But does the world know it? Of course not. Because you're so happy where you are. So those days have gone. So the value that you create, and believe me, your lives, our lives, everybody's life is around value. What is the value that you create? When you went to school and your teacher asked you, 2 plus 2 is equal to what? And everybody said, put the hands up and said 4. Now your teacher gave you 10 on 10. I will give you 0. Why am I giving you 0? Because everybody comes to 4. Everybody sitting in this room is the value of 4. Are you really a value of 4? Of course not. 4 is mediocre. It's the lowest common denominator. Everybody sitting in this room is sitting in this room because you add value to what you do. That's why you are sitting in this room. You're called entrepreneurs. What is the description of an entrepreneur versus a knocker? However highly qualified you might be MBA, you might be the managing director of a company, you can be anything you want. As long as you do not run your own business, you're still a knocker, you think like one. But an entrepreneur is a risk taker. He sets up his own business and he can only succeed if he adds value to 4, which is what the market actually looks for. It judges you on the basis of how many numbers you add to 4. So you can be 8, you can be 10, you can be 16, you can be 18, or you can be 22. Right? Now I'll give you an example if you don't believe me. If your son was doing an MBA in an institution anywhere in the world, he came back to you and says, Dad, I can't handle this MBA shit because there's a lot of bullshit, and I would like to be a mochi. What will happen to you? Immediate ICU with a minor cardiac arrest. Okay, then the dad gets carried to ICU. The mother is fitting around and says, "Kya bol diya beta tune? Why have you given your father a heart attack?" So the son turns around and tells the mother, "Mom, you never heard of a man called Jimmy Choo?" And she said, "Of course I've heard of Jimmy Choo. I've been dreaming about Jimmy Choo. Your father refuses to allow me to buy a Jimmy Choo because he says he has to pay EMIs for it. Because they have $5,000 for a pair of shoes." How much do a pair of Mojiris cost in the corner? 500 rupees? 300 rupees? So why should Jimmy Choo cost $5,000 and women dream about them? So the mother turns around and tells him, "Beta tu ban ja Jimmy Choo. Hamari to life ban jayegi. Koi baat nahi, mochi ho to koi." So what is Jimmy Choo? Finally he's a mochi, na? But look at the value he has added to his brand and his product. Tell me, is he anything outside of a mochi? Okay, he's a Chinese mochi. So don't put yourselves into compartments which you cannot get out of. Think free. Think value. Think where you add value on a personal level, where you add value at an entrepreneurial level, where you add value in anything. Value does not mean profit only. Yes, there is ROI. But value is calculated in far many different ways than profit. Value is about the quality of consistency. Value is about the values that you stand for. Value is about your integrity. Value is about your straightforwardness. Value is about your capacity to back risk. Value is about your capacity to take decisions, sometimes unpleasant ones, but rapidly. Value is streamlining your process of decision making, because that is the only thing that will help your companies to survive in competition. The ones who make the decisions first are the ones who survive. The ones who sit on decisions are the ones that perish. Now, are there right and wrong decisions? That's what you think. In my book, there are no wrong decisions. There are only two kinds of decisions. No decision, which is wrong, or any decision which is right. Because eventually, the goalpost is the same. Whatever decisions you make, your vision is the same. You want to get to a goalpost. The route that you take might be slightly different. Ek right wing ko pass karta hai, he then comes along the wings. One goes through the center. One goes through the shortest distance between 2 points and meets lot of resistance because your fullbacks are standing there. Okay, so the methodology of reaching your goalpost can be different. But the decision to reach the goalpost is the same. The only difference between decision A and decision B is how do you want to get there. Might take a little longer, it might cost a little more, but you're still going to get there. So take the call. Don't sit on your ass. Because competition is going to take the call faster than you. And they're going to get a head start. By the time you catch up with them, you're gone. You become a me too. You always have to have the first user advantage. I was the first one to do this. This product is the first one to introduce this. This brand is the first one to introduce so many advantages first time. Isn't that a great way to build a brand? Because it's the value that you add. So, who judges the value that you add? Never you. You can't judge the value that you add. It's everybody around you that judges your value. Your rivals, your competitions, your friends, your family, society. They judge you by the value that you add. So when somebody is more valuable as a person than somebody else, what does it mean? Does it mean he has more bigger bank account? Or is he valuable as a human being? Your value as a human being is the primary, most important endeavor in your life. So when you add to 4, you are judged all the time. When you are only 4, you are like the jhund, you are like the herd, you are ignored. You are like me too, you are like everybody else. Why should you be special? You are special because you add value to 4. So people cultivate you as a friend, people cultivate you as a mentor, people cultivate you as a leader, people cultivate you as all sorts of things which are more and above the value of your bank account. That is real value. Because you take it to your grave. Money will come and go. But your value that you add to whatever you do as an entrepreneur is what you take to your grave, because that is what your real value is. And nobody can take that away from you. It doesn't have an expiry date. So, when you build brands according to your own image. Why would you shortchange a market with the brand you have built when your brand is your child? Have you ever thought of using a simile where when your son is born or your daughter is born, you start educating her and you start talking to her about the values and the principles of her life. What should she stand by? Or what should he stand by? And when he grows up into a young man and you hand him the mantle of the leadership that you have created, then he fits into it seamlessly and takes it forward. Because you have already educated him not only with a great education, but also with a great value system. Why is your brand any different from your son? I mean, you go to MBA and you learn about how to build a brand and they'll teach it to you in 3 years. Eventually your wife knows more about bringing up your children than you do. So she should be your brand manager. What is the first thing that you do when a child is born in the family? You give it a name, right? What do you think you do with a brand? You give it a name. Why do you give it a name? Do you call him Lallu? Do you call him Rabdi or call her Rabdi because she's sweet? Or do you give her a name with a goonj? कि ये बंदा जाके हीरो बनेगा, ये लीडर बनेगा, ये कुछ बनेगा जिंदगी में, उसको नाम पहले दो. And if the name doesn't have goonj, then he's just an ordinary name, then he's Lallu. So, it starts from the name. And then you build the value into the brand, like you would to your children. So the brands are no different from your children because that you have actually created them. You have created your brand. You want certain values in the brand. You want honesty, you want straightforwardness, you want good quality, you want innovation, you want whatever you want. It's up to you to add the value that you want. When you create the brand, those are the values that you have to put down on a piece of paper and say, my brand stands for this. Then whatever your communication might be, whatever your advertising might be, that is the brief. And that brief is patthar pe lakir. It's written in stone because it never changes in the life of the brand. Every time a marketing team takes over, You suddenly change the value of the brand, everybody gets confused. The value of the brand never changes. The methodology of communication, lifestyle, whatever else that you might want to identify with changes. It evolves or it revolves. But the value system of the brand never changes. Exactly like the value system of your children shouldn't change. Tomorrow your child becomes a criminal and he goes to jail. Who blames himself? What does society look at and say, who is the blame? Blame is of the child that he's a criminal? Nobody blames the child. Everybody blames the parent. Says that you brought your children up wrong. That is why he's a criminal. Similarly with brands. So, there's no difference. I mean, for you, it's so practical because all of you are family people, all of you bring up your children, all of you have hopes and desires in the children. It's the same thing in your brand. Why do you think differently about your brand? It's your child. And therefore, the value that you add to the brand is the value that you add to your children. Same. Absolutely. No difference. Now, I've collected over the years. I'm an advertising professional, so the only way I can illustrate or demonstrate to you what value is, because none of you will actually believe that 2 and 2 should be 22. You all think, it's a good thing to say, it sounds clever. But actually it doesn't happen because it cannot, because it's not logical. I'll show you that it can. But the value that you add to whatever you do only comes with hindsight. After you added the value, that you suddenly realize that yaar, ye mochi se Jimmy Choo ban gaya. But Jimmy Choo always had this vision that he would create a shoe that would be a world beater. He never thought himself as a mochi. Yes, he did think of himself as a mochi, but not a humble little mochi. He thought himself as a world beater. He'd make the best shoes in the world. And he proceeded to do precisely that. In a plethora of brands, there must be 50,000 shoe brands in the world today. Why is it that Jimmy Choo is sitting right on top of the shit pile? Why is the recall so great? Even if you can't afford him, you still know him because of the value that he has created. So over the last 20 years, I've collected a whole lot of films from advertising, which added a value which was much more than 4. And when I show them to you, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, the fact is that advertising by its nature today, especially the kind of change that we are coming through, has an expiry date of about 6 months. Sorry. Advertising has an expiry date of 6 months. Because what is advertising all about? What is that aspect of branding which is called advertising all about? It's all about dreams. What is it about? What is it about dreams? Everybody here in this room dreams. So everybody in their own way is creative. Only thing is you don't remember your dreams. But when you see them, you remember them. So your dreams are about what you want to be. Your dreams are not about what you are. So every 6 months your dreams change. Because 6 months down the line, you might have achieved what you want to be and now you want to be somebody else. So advertising by a thumb rule today, you have to change every 6 months because nobody wants to watch an old dream. You want to watch new dreams. You want to see whether you can reach that place where you're dreaming about. What you want to be in your heart of hearts, kya banna chahte ho? So, advertising is really tapping into that part of it, which is your dreams, with a lot of truth and a lot of fact. But eventually, the creative part of it is all about dreaming. So, it has an expiry date. But when it adds value, somebody will have to tell me about my time, because I can carry on the whole day. So when you add value to a piece of communication or to a brand building exercise, that value you separate from being time bound. It's forever. Value never diminishes. Value never dies. Value never expires. Just remember that. It's forever. And it has an author. And it belongs to the person who has created that value. So I'm going to show you a bunch of films very quickly so that we understand what value creation is in communication areas. So let's start with, can we see the menu? And can we kill these lights? I'm going to show you a 20-year-old film made for Cadbury's in India, which changed the fortunes of many people. Changed the fortunes of the brand. It changed the fortunes of the people concerned with the brand. And it created a place for the brand for the future of the country. 20 years ago, when we gave sweets to each other during Diwali, no, kill the lights, don't worry. They can hear my voice. You can forget about my ugly face. Kill the light. Wait, kill the light, I said. I'm still talking about the thing. Hang on. Yeah, better. What this created was that 20 years ago, we used to give one chocolate during a Diwali hamper, or Christmas hamper, or a New Year hamper. Today, 60% of that sweets that we send is actually Cadbury's. So that's what this film did. It made that difference. Yeah, run it.
कुछ खास है हम सभी में, कुछ बात है हम सभी में, बात है खास है, कुछ स्वाद है, क्या स्वाद है जिंदगी में।
कैडबरीज डेयरी मिल्क, असली स्वाद जिंदगी का।
Now, the most important part of this film was that it changed the way women thought in India. Women were dressed in saris, they were conservative, they wouldn't come out in the open, they would not put themselves out, they wouldn't give their opinion, they would always be subservient 20 years ago. But when they saw this film, every single woman who saw the film, whether she was 16 years old or whether she was 60 years old, said, that's me. I don't have the courage to do what she did. I don't have the guts to do what she did. But in my heart, that is who I am. It actually defined a role model for women who didn't have a voice. This film actually created a voice for them. And it changed the way they thought. So advertising, when you say it does not have social change, it does. In very many ways which you don't expect it to. So it changed the brand. It changed the way we looked at the brand from a chocolate. It became a chocolate. And there's a huge difference between chocolate and chocolate. Because all this while it was barfi and laddu. Now it's also a chocolate. So almost 50 to 60% of your Diwali gifts are chocolate. It wasn't so then. It made the career of a man called Piyush Pandey, because he wrote the script. And today is the chairman of his company. So, in terms of impact of value, you can never ever calculate how much impact on who it has and what it does, which you never intended to do. All you intended to do was sell chocolate to an Indian who thought, नहीं ये बहुत महंगा होगा, ये अंग्रेज की चीज है. So, That is actually what happened. And this film now, when you look back at it at 20 years later, the value has not diminished. If anything else, it's grown. But look at what it did at its time, which was not expected to do. That is real value. Next.
Hello.
Hi.
What are you doing tonight?
Me?
Join me for dinner.
Sure.
See you at 8. One black coffee, please.
Ericsson mobile phones. Surprisingly small.
Now, Ericsson at that time had just launched in India. It was the biggest mobile company in the world. And for the first time, they had launched a phone that you could actually fit into your palm. Okay, nobody remembers this, 15 years ago. They launched the first mobile phone that fit into your hand. Otherwise, all mobile phones look like a hatoda, including Motorola. Okay, so that was sitting on top. This is the most successful commercial ever made for mobile phones. It just ripped the market apart. But what happened today? Where's Ericsson? It died. Number one company in the world 15 years ago. After that died Nokia. Then died BlackBerry. Now maybe Samsung next. So the fact is you have to keep ahead of the learning curve. If your consumer grows faster than you do, then you're dead. Next.
नया सेंटर शॉक हिला के रख दे।
Next. Keep going.
Hey Kamle, why time wasting? Get my pan, go.
Excuse me, this pension file of mine, where should I give?
It's an exciting game of hockey, attacking from the right flank, crosses the central line and intercepted there by Dharampal and deflected to Sukhwinder. Sukhwinder passes to De Silva. De Silva pushes to Mohammad Shahid. Mohammad Shahid takes possession of the ball and scoops it to Fernandes. Fernandes redirects it to Tim and Robinson. And a very close tackle there. And that's an infringement. And once again attacking from the left flank, crosses center line, wonderful turn, enters the deep, but cleared there by the defender, out of the sideline, and a disappointed retreat into the midfield, and ball finds Stanley. Stanley takes a good look and passes it to Balwinder. Balwinder takes control and sweeps across the field to Rajendra, but Rajendra, without seeing, scoops the ball to Andrews. Andrews misses the ball completely and ball reaches Pillai. Pillai gently taps to the captain. Captain takes possession, aimless dribbling, trying to slow down the game, time-wasting technique, and a warning from the referee. And once again, with full force, attacking from the right flank, dribbling, crossing the center line, fantastic move towards the D, enters the D, and a dangerous tackle by the defender there. Referee intervenes. The situation is very tense. Anything can happen. Referee consulting the linesman, an appeal for green cards. The green cards are out, and it's a penalty corner. Push from the corner, quick collect, quick release, and goal! India has won!
Oof, what a game, no? Had fun?
Yeah.
See, the whole world can change, but some things don't change. So this is what we're up against right now. And it takes a group like the Times of India to have the courage to actually show us the real face of what we are really all about. And more than anything else, I found more Indians all over the world identify with this film more than anything else, because that has been the experience. Next.
यही है right choice baby I'm your new neighbor. Can I have a Leher Pepsi?
Yeah, sure. Yes! Oops. और कुछ चलेगा?
नहीं, पेप्सी नहीं है तो।
ना, no problem.
You okay in there?
ये लहर पेप्सी.
That must be Sanju.
संजू?
Hi, I'm Sanjana. Got another Pepsi?
Sure.
Next. This commercial is special to me because we launched Aishwarya Rai with it, and the rest is history.
Lines can keep you in. Lines can keep you out.
Lines can keep you out.
Some lines you don't understand. Some lines you can erase. Some you can't. Some lines you wait for. And some lines make you wait. Lines can keep you alive. Lines are with you till the end. But the only lines that matter are the ones you make. The new Safari Dicor 2.2. Reclaim your life.
जीरा गरजे दिल ये डोले झूम के बोले तारे छूले प्यास बड़ी है और भी बढ़ ले अरे खोल के बंधन तोड़ के ताले ये दिल मांगे मोर
ये दिल मांगे मोर.
Aha! This was one of the most popular films made by Pepsi for many reasons. One was that it was against most of the laws of advertising. Because the people who we depicted drinking the Pepsi are people who normally can't afford Pepsi because they're Basti kids. They're from the lower stratas of society. But the argument was with the client, with Pepsi, was because they wanted upmarket kids from high-rise buildings. And the team, my team, said that it's not about Pepsi, it's about dreams. Dil Mange Mo is about your dreams. Who has a bigger dream? The Basti kids or the high-rise kids who have everything already? So they were forced to actually reconsider the positioning of the brand, that if it stood for dreams, then the representation should be of people who had big dreams, who wanted to become something in their lives. And the small kids wanted to become Sachin. All the high-rise kids, if they became Sachin or didn't become Sachin, it didn't really matter to them. But for them, it was life and death to become Sachin, because it would mean escape, it would mean fame, it would mean wealth, it would mean everything. So we actually decided to go with the Basti kids. And the second thing was that, which is a very important lesson that I learned from this film. What is the difference between your employees doing a job and owning a job? How do you empower the people who work for you to own the job? Now the difference was, I'll tell you what happened in this film. We made the film, there was no jingle. We looked at it and we said, okay, it needs some music track. So we decided to do a music track with somebody sat and wrote the lyrics, but not properly. And then there was a suggestion from the team that let's get Raghuveer Yadav to come and do the jingle. Raghuveer Yadav is a very famous actor, but he's rural. He has an understanding of music, but of very folk kind of music, very basic. So I said, we don't have the budget, we don't have the time. We can't go looking for Raghuveer Yadav. He's sitting somewhere in Madhya Pradesh. So we'll find somebody who's like Raghuveer Yadav, anybody can copy his style. So we get to do it. So they all sort of didn't agree with me, but they didn't disagree either, because I was very strong on my opinion. I came back a week later and saw this. They had done this. And I said, wow, it's fantastic. See, I told you didn't need Raghuveer Yadav. So they turned around and told me, it is Raghuveer Yadav. So initially I was very angry, because I said, you disobeyed a direct order from me and said, don't find him, yaar, it's too expensive, it takes too much time. And you still went ahead and looked for him, found him, brought him to Bombay at great cost and made this film, which is looking terrific. Then I thought about it and I said, the difference between people doing a job and owning a job is the quality of this film, which is what makes this film so special. Is because it had a life of Sachin Tendulkar's career. They could run it any time as long as he was playing. And it never ended. The life never ended. It's not that after 6 months you retire the film. You can still run the film. Because it's everything that he stands for. About big dreams. Because he also comes from a very humble background. He was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He worked for it. So, as an example, this film was great, but more important for me as a lesson was that my people could be trusted to do a job because they weren't doing a job. They owned the job. They were willing to challenge me and my authority to do it right. And that's what's important. That's a huge lesson. Next.
वो पीछे देखना, साइड स्क्रीन पे सब हाथ हिला रहे हैं।
चल अभी देख लूंगा।
क्या?
मैक्स दीवाना बना दे।
क्या हो गया ये? क्यों मर गया तू?
मत रो बेटा, मत रो।
तो क्या करूं? आज मेरी पहली डेथ एनिवर्सरी है। 1 साल से यहाँ लेटा हुआ हूँ, बीवी की याद सताती है।
कोई बात नहीं, 1-2 साल में वो भी आ जाएगी। रोते नहीं, मुझे देख।
आपको तो एक्सपीरियंस है अंकल, मैं तो नया नया ही आया हूँ।
अच्छा भूत ऐसे नहीं रोते। चल मैं तुझे पिक्चर दिखा लाता हूँ।
कौन सी भूत? 1 मिनट।
चल जल्दी चल, नहीं तो शॉट छूट जाएगा। अरे भूत के बच्चे, फिर मर गया।
हाथी सीमेंट, मजबूती गजब की।
Lot of clients ask me, what is the length of my product in your film? I tell them, how does it matter? Say, no, I'm paying for 30 seconds or 40 seconds. I must have at least half the length must be my brand, na? Look, how will they understand my brand? So I said, see, it's all about storytelling. It's where we fit the brand in seamlessly. It's not how much of it is there. So you can't hit them with a hathoda on the head and bore them to death. If the brand comes for just 5 seconds and if it's very effective, you'll never forget Hathi Cement. It's a 40-second film with 5 seconds of brand. So it doesn't matter what the length of your brand is, how seamlessly it's put in, how quietly it actually, and how effectively it is. Next. This commercial is about a chewing gum. कहाँ से कहाँ ले गए idea? And the chewing gum is supposed to make your teeth white. Look at the quality of the value that they've added to the idea itself. And it's a once upon a time film. It's not that it's modern, that you see it every day. It's about a Maharaja and his palace and this chap who's a chandelier. And all the lights are people. They're not lights. Whether they're on the khamba or whether they're on the car, they're all people. And because their teeth shine so brightly that they become lights. So this film actually won, every month they have a survey in the world of the best commercial of the world. This film, for the time that when it was released, was the best commercial of the world for that month. Next.
Hey भाई साहब, कहीं पेप्सी मिलेगा?
This is a cricket ground.
Okay. Pepsi.
Hey, players only. Chol, Footlay.
Okay.
Yes.
Sachin. Oh, morning, sir.
Hey, Sachin, क्या ढूंढ रहा है?
हाँ, सौरभ.
मिले मिले
सौरभ
मैडम सचिन you're on.
On? Hi, Sachin.
Sachin.
I'll take it from here.
Thanks.
Thanks. All the best.
Next.
क्या कर रहा है यार?
कोने में ये बालकनी खोल देना। हेलो
Go to the menu. Okay, flip the page, go above. Go to the next page, yeah. Go to the next page, yeah. Go to domestic abuse and then Google.
I, Sharon Fernanda Pulle, take thee, Jude Vitanage, to be my lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, through suffering and pain, together in happiness, till death do us part.
Domestic violence is not part of your marriage vows. If you are a victim or a witness, call our Women in Need hotline 471-8585.
Go to Google, yeah.
ये मैं, ये यूसुफ, लंगोटिया यार सी मेरा। लाहौर में हमारे घर के सामने एक बड़ा बाग था। उस बाग का गेट बाबा आदम के जमाने। रोज शाम को हमने वहाँ पतंगे उड़ानी और उसके बाद जाके यूसुफ के दुकान से झझरिया चुरा के खानी।
झझरिया?
और मेरा साहब नमस्ते।
नमस्ते, मेरी पोती मुंबई वाली।
और बेटे क्या हाल चाल है?
की तंग गली फिर से कूद फांदे, छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे।
हेलो, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
फाजिल स्वीट्स?
हाँ जी।
दादाजान, दिल्ली से किसी की कॉल है।
हेलो,
यूसुफ अंकल।
कौन?
जी मैं सुमन बोल रही हूँ दिल्ली से, आपके बचपन के दोस्त बलदेव जी की पोती। याद है बचपन में आप दोनों झझरिया चुरा के खाते थे?
बचपन की तंग गली फिर से कूद फांदे, छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे। एक पतंग सा उड़ता था परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह। एक दौर था मन मन मोर था, एक दौर था मन मन मोर था।
पार्टीशन के वक्त हम रातों रात हिंदुस्तान आ गए।
दादू
यूसुफ दी बड़ी आजादी।
कागजों की कश्तियों में डूबा रहता था, झांकती खिड़कियों में उलझा रहता था। वो भी क्या दौर था, मन पे न जोर था। एक दौर था मन मन मोर था, एक दौर था मन मन मोर था।
भैया थोड़ा जल्दी।
मन मोर।
हाँ जी, कौन?
हैप्पी बर्थडे यारा।
बल्लू
Okay. Now I've sort of run out of my time. So are there any questions? So what I'm trying to say, now we can have the lights. What I'm trying to say is that if you looked at this bunch of films, some of them are 20 years old, some of them are 15 years old, some of them are old, some of them are new. But the one quality that all of them have is that they've added so much more value to the brief that was given, that they're forever. And this Google film is so special to me in terms of its storytelling, because whenever I see it, I get wet eyes. It doesn't really matter where, how many times. That is the quality of great brand building, where the brand comes in so quietly, like a dream, and goes away and leaves you changed forever. And look at the kind of value that Google added to the lives of two completely different people who separated during partition, and how it brought them together through the help of his granddaughter. So it's not in your face. It's not doom dharaka. It's not beating of drums. It's nothing. It's quietly built into the story. If the story is strong, your brand is strong. Any questions? Come on, guys. Thank you.
Just like my predecessor, I also would like to make just two small comments. The first, the film Ye Dil Mange More. You know, beside connecting with so many different people, the best part is, which a lot of people might know, during the Kargil War, one of India's martyrs, Paramveer Chakra Vijayata, this was his code line. As and when he used to win a peak, he would call up his base, and the code line was Ye Dil Mange More. So that's how look at the power of advertising, and look at the creator right here, which is absolutely, totally amazing. The second comment I have, with the Cadbury ad which Mr. Kakkar had done about 20 years ago.
No, I haven't done it. It was done, but these are collection of films that I've collected. Some I've done, but most of them I haven't done.
Okay. Nevertheless, you've done quite a bit. Yeah, the Cadbury ad, which you rightly said, it created a sort of a revolution in terms of a lady going ahead and expressing herself. Reminds me of something that happened on television 2 weeks ago, where an Indian cricketer looked at his lady love, who happens to be an actress, pointed his bat, and threw her a flying kiss. So maybe you got to make another ad now. Thank you.
But you didn't jump into the stadium,
No.
ran past the guards, and danced away to his heart. Yes.
What you have mentioned. This was regarding the Happydent ad.
The
Happydent ad?
Happydent ad,
yeah,
yes.
What you mentioned. So you mentioned, 2 points which, clicked into my mind. Wherein, you mentioned that, the purpose, it was basically a gum and, it was given it in a different direction that,
yes,
it sparkles teeth. So how, is it something that, we are, the purpose is basically, shown, showcased in a different manner. So is it distracting or, how does it, solve the purpose? Or
what do you think? Next time you're buying a gum of your brand,
right,
and you saw this lying there, you say, yaar, double purpose gum hai, chalo, isko hi kha lete. Daant to chamkenge.
Right, sir.
So maybe the mashuk who you're smiling at will turn around and get dazzled by you for whatever it's worth. I mean, advertising is always an exaggeration, but it is an extension of a dream.
Right.
And look where they took the creative, and look at the detailing of that ad.
Right.
I mean, look at the amount of effort that was put into taking a small little product like a gum, which makes your teeth white, and made this fantastic story around it.
Definitely, sir. I really like that ad.
Yeah. Yes.
So I just have a question. The impact and the value which you spoke about, and it makes so much of difference in people when they actually go through. I saw the Google ad, and every time when I first time saw the Google ad, I had tears in my eyes,
exactly.
and I cried now also.
Yes.
So the point is, it's so moving. But then you have brands like Ericsson and the one which also made an impact.
Yes.
Where does the impact and value just diminish in the process? Because like you said earlier in your speech, that it takes 2 years for a company and an MNC of that stature to just disappear. And
see, I believe, looking at it in hindsight, and this is not something that I knew all along, this is what I realized now, is that the only difference between a successful company and a non-successful company is the capacity to make quick decisions. Now, how do you streamline the process? Today, the management structure is a pyramid where only the guy on top is actually allowed to make the crucial decisions.
Absolutely.
Everybody is allowed to say no, nobody is allowed to say yes. Even the junior most guy, even the liftman is allowed to say no. But the guy who says yes gets saddled with the responsibility of having said yes. Everybody jumps down his throat instead of rewarding him. Because decisions are about yes. Decisions are not about no. So, we have to now change the structure of the way we look at our companies and empower younger people to make more decisions. Because they know more about the market than we do. We've sometimes learned, we sometimes moved on. We are their mentors. We protect them when they're going wrong. But we can't take the call from them. So you can't empower only the managing director or the owner of the company to make all the crucial decisions. He's too old, too late, too slow.
which you rightly said, the risk which you spoke about that younger generation today takes is the fact that today somebody sitting on the pyramid really doesn't want to listen to a no, and he feels threatened by the guy that he would surpass or come
but why
up
should he be
simply out.
threatened?
But that leads to a lot of entrepreneur development which is happening today, because a lot of these people today are younger generation, and among people who have worked in great companies are today becoming an entrepreneur because somewhere they could have.
They get blocked. Yeah. But if you look at a company, if you take a survey of the most popular company what young people want to work for, guess which it is? Google. Google is the best employer today. Why? Because they don't have any fixed hours. They have nothing. They allow you to come to office. They create a great space for you. You're given a full authority to take decisions in the assignment that you've been given. You can own the job. Google kids own their jobs. That's the difference. The difference with management today is you have to empower people to own the jobs, not do a job. Because you can get as many PNs as you want. Why do you want an MBA to be a PN?
Thank you so much.
You know, the Ericsson case perhaps also ties back to what you mentioned about being honest and truthful about your brand. Now, that particular commercial spoke about Ericsson being an innovative, cutting-edge kind of a company. But perhaps they failed to realize that they have to work towards maintaining that imagery.
Obviously, it's such a changing world. They forgot that the world is changing around them.
Absolutely. So at the initial stages, you would probably create the advertising depending on what the value of the brand is. But then it's also the responsibility of the brand to make sure that they are consistent in delivering that.
Exactly, value. And delivering what they promise. Now, that's a constant process. And you can't slack on that. You can't just sit on your backside and think, "Arey, bana diya winner, abhi theek hai. Next 10 years, don't worry about it." Those days have gone. You review everything every 3 months.
Hear me. But see, if you look at most of the companies which invented the technology are actually out of it. So if you look at Motorola, they invented the cellular technology.
Exactly.
They're almost out of it. You look at Kodak.
Exactly.
The camera. They're out of it. So I think what happens is companies, they become very comfortable, once they actually start leading, they become the top brand, they become very comfortable. I think they become
it's not
complacent.
comfortable. They also become very set and conservative in their decision making.
Yeah, I guess, that's right. I think they don't want to take risks.
They don't want to take risks. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to allow young people to take decisions. The young people are the best people to make the decisions.
Most of the companies which have actually invented the technology are actually out of it, if you look at it.
Yeah, but that's evolution. Now you'll find that the guys who are left behind have learned from that. And like Google. Google is so young. Each individual owns their job. They're responsible for their job. They're not answerable to anybody except themselves. Anybody else?
One more question. And you've been in business for many, many years. You've seen different kinds of leaders. What's the biggest difference that you see in decision makers at the client's head maybe about 10, 15, 20 years ago to the decision makers that you're dealing with now? And any example of one of the most inspiring decision makers that you saw because of what he or she brought to the table?
See, I found that the decision makers are always, the age is not important, it's the way they think. Like, for instance, one of the best decision makers I've seen used to be Dr. Kurin from Amul. Okay, he turned around and said, "Listen guys, this is not my field. I make milk, I make butter, I make church. This is your work. After 1 year, we're going to review your work, and if it's not up to the mark, you're sacked. Now you go ahead and do what you want. This is your money." Okay. The other guy who was hands-on was Sunil Lalag. He said, "I have 30 crores as a budget, which is massive, if you think so." He said, "I have 40 brands. I have less than 1 crore per brand. What am I going to do? So I can't afford to be mediocre. I have to take risks. I have to be hatke from everybody else." And he was hugely successful in that endeavor because he was directly a creative. He was a creative head actually. He led from the front. He took the calls. He took the blame. He passed on the credit. These are the guys, Vibha Rishi, from Pepsi, who turned around and said, no, but my management is not going to allow you to show Basti kids. They can't afford Pepsi. So when I told her that it's all about dreaming, she said, okay, I'll take them on. Don't worry about it. Go ahead. She just said, go, carte blanche. She didn't want to nitpick. She didn't want to do anything. She just was concerned that her management would turn around and say, what are these chokras doing in the film? They're not aspirational. So, and the client who approved Happy Dent, what balls he must have had. I mean, it takes courage, to turn around and take a small brand like a chewing gum and say, यार तुम लोग क्या कर रहे हो? मेरा तो कुंडा कर दोगे तुम. But he saw the thing and he saw how committed the team was to the job, and he said, run with it. I only have so much money. I don't know about the rest. You do what you want. And a lot of people actually did that film free because they believed in it so much. Thank you.
Thank you for the thought-provoking session.